The rookies are on fire the first weekend of training camp in St. Joe for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to tell you all about it today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors, Chiefs fans all over the world, and football fans. You want to become part of this Chiefs kingdom. We have a lot to talk about as training camp is on. The rookies are in camp. We're brought to you by BetOnline today. It's where the game starts. We'll tell you more about that coming up. Thanks for making us your first listen. Make sure you check out another Locked On show, like the Locked On NFL Draft Show, for your next listen. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and the founder of NFL33.com, where we talk about league-wide issues. I run RGR Football over on the YouTube side. So there's a lot going on. We are part of the podcast network that is your team every day for free on every platform. That is Locked On. And today, we get to talk about the rookies, and one that we're all very excited about just as much as anything on the offensive side. We're going to start on the defensive side. Today is my top 5 things from rookie minicamp, the first 3 days of Chiefs training camp today. And number 1 for me is Leo Chenal is playing coverage and actually making plays. This is the thing that he was never asked to do at Wisconsin, was never part of what the expectation was. It's a hope. It's still a hope. It's going to be a hope that he can grow into a guy that can contribute in the passing game. Because if they can do that, then they have 3 legitimate pass defenders at the linebacker level that they feel can rotate in and out of the ball game and keep them fresh and keep them at a level that can actually put out and produce for that particular game. Now, before I go any further, Chris Clark is off today. He'll be back later. Just want to let you know that we're running through this today. These are my top 5. We'll talk about his after the fact. But Leo Chenal, it's not that this is anything to do with a shock. I think the team has a lot of faith in him. I have a lot of faith in him as a downhill player. I really, really like what the blitz game can become with Leo Chenal on the field, along with Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. They can all blitz well, but that's like the bread and butter for Leo Chenal, the Wisconsinite. But this isn't really that part of camp. When it's the rookie portion, and these 3 days are limited to all the rookie class, the quarterbacks, and quote-unquote select players. That's what that means. We're going to talk about one of those select players coming up here in a bit in the form of Jody Fortson. Those are usually guys that they may have been on the roster before. Usually by your 3rd year, you're not very likely to be out there. But if you had a season that was cut short by injury, if you had a season that was cut short and you ended up on the practice squad, you are eligible to come to these first 3 days that they call rookie minicamp of training camp. And that's why the rookies and quarterbacks report early, and then the rest of the team follows on. Now, I'm recording this Sunday night. We're 2 days away from the rest of the team and all the veterans reporting for training camp. So it is right around the corner. Isn't a long time period, but it is a time that allows the rookie class in particular, but also the other guys that are there and eligible to participate, to get their feet under them, to get to St. Joe and learn where everything's at and do everything that they need to feel comfortable in the environment so that they can learn, so they can play fast, and so they can show everything that they have in their ability to make the roster. That is exactly what Leo Chenal is doing. When he was here for OTAs, it was a different kind of feel. It was just the bare minimum. It was, you don't get a whole lot of there's not supposed to be any contact. You don't get a whole lot of blitz theme, that kind of stuff. Now, this is the true thing. And for right now, it's not contact either. There's not full lines. So it's not like you can even practice blitzing at this point with just these people. So it is 7-on-7. It's a passing camp because that's the only thing that you can really get done. And for Leo, who is a guy that we don't have much expectation for in the pass game in terms of being a pass defender, being open in space, it's because of a lack of experience, not because he's not athletic, because he certainly has all the athletic traits that he needs to be good at it. It's just that he was never asked to do it at Wisconsin. I mean, literally of 6 games that I watched, I think I saw 3 drops, period. That is it. And it's not because I don't think the staff at Wisconsin had identified he can't do this. I think it was, he's so good at attacking the line of scrimmage. We have to do that with him. It makes a huge difference. And that's something that Steve Spagnuolo is going to do quite a bit as well. And you get a feel for that when Leo's talking about, preparation for what's going to go on in training camp. And he and Coach Daly, Brendan Daly has moved over to linebackers. If you missed that during the offseason, Coach Cullen is now the defensive line coach, Daly at linebacker. He and Daly have already talked about August 1st, camp pads come on. That's the first hit of practice in camp. And he's already got it circled on his calendar. So I think that tells you all you need to know about what Leo Chenal's looking for. And I think that's really where he will be able to show off and show his true upside. But for him to come in on Sunday and make a tipped interception to himself in the end zone, defending and stopping what theoretically would be a drive that puts points on the board, that is a huge leap from the way he was used at Wisconsin. And that is, again, it's just a passing camp, but that is something that you can build on and that they will have to build on because there's a lot more to come from him. I'm betting he's going to have a big part towards the back half of the season once he gets a lot of that underneath him. And if you want to make that bet on how well he does, you can do it at betonline.net, the fastest, easiest way to check all your betting needs, get all the information you have, check the odds, the lines, and all the games, as well as the props. There will be some very fun Chiefs props that you want to go take a look at this offseason as we get ready for camp and ready for the preseason. You can also bet other sports, although, they're just other sports. But there's golf and NHL, NBA. There's even MMA and those kind of sports that you can make your bets on there as well. They have all the information that you need for sports wagering, live betting, as well as scores and all the podcasts that help back all that up. So go check out BetOnline. It's super easy to get around. You can do that today. It's BetOnline where the game starts. Now, on the backside, the defense is certainly a focus for me. My eye naturally goes to the defense when I'm watching practice. I have to train myself. Hey, disengage, go watch the offense for a while. I will do that when I'm in camp. My plans are changing for all of you that we're hoping to meet up after the first preseason game. I am not going to be able to make it that weekend. So my plans are going to change. I'm not solidified yet, but if you would leave your comments in the YouTube and thoughts on the iTunes reviews and the Spotify reviews to let us know when you're going to be around there, maybe we can work something out and get a group of Locked On fans and RGR fans together. I think that would be a lot of fun. Now, again, because the nature of this camp, we're not hearing a lot about George Karlaftis. From what I understand, he looks loose, he looks comfortable, he looks ready to go. There's just not much to do. You have a handful of offensive linemen and a handful of defensive linemen in camp, and that's really all it is. It is, again, a passing camp, so there's not much that you can show right now. Don't let that bother you. I'm not concerned about it, and I don't think anybody else should. I think he's going to be fine, and when we get the veterans in and we have full lines and we can start going through team periods and things like that, that's when I think you're going to see George Karlaftis start to show up. So take that with a grain of salt. Who is showing up right now is the guys that are catching passes and a couple that are defending them. We'll talk about more about the defense here afterwards. But I want to talk about who's catching passes right now because it's just young guys. They're getting all these reps in order to get up to speed. And the number one guy that has stood out for 2 days of this rookie camp. Now, Monday, they'll have another practice in the morning. It's not open to the public, so we won't have anything but what we get for reports from the beat reporters. But the first 2 days have been Jody Fortson, and Jody Fortson. And for those that were concerned about his recovery path, it is over. My number 2 thing is Jody Fortson is ready to be tight end 2, and he will be a playmaker on this offense this season. It was all a question of recovery because he showed so much promise in the way that he was coming along. It is about his health. And he looks to be, by all accounts and everyone that I've spoken to, 90+% back. And that is a great sign at this stage in the season. He looks like he's a guy that is ready to make his mark. And he talked very long about the process and the support that he got from the organization and his teammates and how he went through last season, even though he was hurt and on IR, being prepared as though he were going to play on Sunday. And I think that helped him push through. And clearly it's showing now. Now, you have a lot of non-contact rules. You'll see a lot of extra pads on top of helmets for the next few days. Don't be alarmed. That's nothing to be concerned about. They do that in order to just limit the possibility of impacts right now when it's only accidental contact is really the only thing that can happen. So they're just trying to keep a lid on that. Jody Fortson is a guy that, with the departure of Tyreek Hill, obviously there's a lot of questions about the wide receiver group. Number 3 is going to be about that. We'll talk about that in a second. But in order to really hit them where they're aiming, as defenses are going to concentrate on playing deep to stymie Mahomes and covering Travis Kelce, there's going to be opportunities. And I think I expect to see more double tight end sets, more 12 personnel this season where you have Jody Fortson on the field with Travis Kelce. I think that he is going to be one of the prime targets to make up for not the yardage, not the huge explosive plays, although I think Jody's got some explosive plays in him. It's going to be about the volume. It's going to be about the target count. As they spread the ball around more, I think Jody Fortson is going to reap some of the benefits of those passes that went to Tyreek Hill last season. It's going to be about conversion, either making those leaping catches like he did against Washington, which is probably the best play he's made yet, or if he's able to get hit in stride so he can show his yak. He's got more yak ability than I think most people have seen, and that's yards after catch for those who don't recognize the term. It is key in this offense now. As air yards were key the last few years with Tyreek Hill, it is now going to be about yak yards. Who gets the ball in their hands and can do something with it, and how productive can they be? That's going to be really the focus of how they distribute the ball, because the ball's got to come out with tempo. That leads me to number 3. Number 3 of my top 5 is that Skyy Moore looks like he's ready to go. Andy Reid feels like he's ready to go. He talked about how he's got this running back lower body, which is actually more robust than what I saw on film. So maybe he's been in the weight room. But more importantly, he's got hamstrings that are healthy now. He has fully recovered from his injury. He is rolling at rookie camp, and that's what's important for him getting able to get on pace and get with Mahomes. Now, we saw that he'd been getting with Mahomes in terms of passing a little bit, practice down in Texas, running some routes, getting those kind of things under his feet. And that's great to see as well. But it's a little bit different in pads, even just shells with pads and helmets, than it is just running against air in T-shirts. But the fact that Andy mentioned him and how he's using his colossal sized hands to really elevate his game and get rolling, that's really positive, because he's the guy, just like Jody Fortson, that as teams look to address Travis Kelce and look to play deep to stymie Mahomes and his deep plays to Juju and MVS and McCole Hardman, who's going to be left to take up those targets? It's going to be the running backs, and it's going to be guys that play inside the hashes in Jody Fortson and Skyy Moore. I expect Skyy Moore to have a lot of touches about week 6 to 9, somewhere in there, as teams roll to try to address some of the outer coverage. I think that's going to open up slots and tunnels for Skyy Moore pretty dramatically. I'm really excited about his potential. Now, he's not the only receiver that made some noise here in the first couple of days. There's another one I'm going to tell you about next, but I got to tell you about the easiest way to really take your hindsight and make it pay. It is 2020, and even though you can't change the past, you can get a little help from your future self right now. Maybe ask to borrow a little bit of money. You can do that with Dave. Dave is the banking app that can get you help and get you $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank. Lord knows we all need that. You can use it as a wedding gift. You can catch up on bills. You can do whatever you need with it. It's finally there to tackle the expenses that have been stressing you out, and without giving you any new hangups either. There's no interest and there's no credit check needed. Millions of people have downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief that they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch, or you just want some extra help, or you just want to take advantage of a free offer, get in there and download Dave, and think of it as helping your future self right now. All you have to do is download the Dave app. That's D-A-V-E, just like the guy's name, from any app store. And you get the extra cash account. You instantly get $500. Done deal. For terms and conditions, you have to go to dave.com/legal, and instant transfer fees do apply. Banking is provided by Evolve, member FDIC. The future you will thank you. The future me is going to thank a couple of guys as well, because there's some bets that have been going around that are starting to come up. Cornell Powell had a good day on Sunday. That's number 4. Cornell Powell was nearly written off last season. I still think he has a hard time making this roster just due to levels of competition. But for a guy to come back who had nearly been run out of town by the fan base and show back up and catch everything on a day when there's a lot of passes being thrown, that opens eyes of the coaching staff. And I think that helps him make some noise. Likely either on the practice squad or another roster, but it's still noise. So cheers to him. Number 5 is that the DBs are in competition. Had a number of tips. Trent McDuffie took the ball away, knocked it down on Saturday. Josh Williams had a good day out and made some PBUs on Sunday. That kind of competition for the young guys, just even though it's not a full team practice. Number 5 is that the DBs are here to compete and they're going to pull it off. And that's really exciting because we've talked about it for years. What can pass rush do to help the secondary? By cutting down the time, forcing the ball out. Well, the secondary now has a lot of talent in it. Yes, it's young, but there's a lot of talent in the secondary. The secondary can help the pass rush by forcing the quarterback to hold the ball a little longer, let the pass rush get home. So having these guys that are in there competing against Mahomes and competing against Henne, a guy who knows how to place the ball, this is a very good sign that the young guys are going to be able to compete right away with the L'Jarius Sneeds and the Juan Thornhills and the Justin Reeds of this group. Now, it doesn't mean that they're somehow rocketing up the depth chart. Trent McDuffie's already a starter. He's penciled in. He would have to have an injury of some kind to not be a starter come week 1. Josh Williams, on the other hand, is a completely different story. And he's a guy that is locked into a battle. Right now, as I see it, with Rashad Fenton on the pup, and we don't know how that's going to go. I hope that he recovers and is able to be on the roster for week 1. If not, you'll have to do the bring him on the roster the 53 day one, then he goes immediately to short-term IR, etc. There's some hoops you have to jump through. But if he's unable to play, this is what the depth chart looks like. It is L'Jarius Sneed at CB1, Trent McDuffie at CB2, and the now new to the team, Lonnie Johnson at CB3. I haven't seen Lonnie Johnson yet. Neither have you, unless you've been at camp and he's been sneaking around in the bleachers or something. We will see him this week. But he's a guy that has to take up the slack for Rashad Fenton's absence. And I think that's honestly more critical than most people are giving it credence right now, because he's a guy that has some experience. He's certainly got the length and the physicality to play a Bashad Breeland role, a Sean Smith role on the outside. And especially when you know that they've been practicing, at least in OTAs, Trent McDuffie on the inside at nickel, as well as L'Jarius, so they can move around. You got to lock down that other outside spot. And that seems to be what Lonnie Johnson's really going to be looking at. It's okay. You just got to be ready for it. You got to be accepting of the fact that that's the way it's going to come down to. Now, I think in the end, he competes for that role. I feel very good that he is a guy that can contribute to the roster, but I think he's got upside in him. I think he's got yet more ability that he hasn't tapped into yet, is the best way to put it. I think he's got starter level capability in his future, in this role, on this team, in this defense. So that does kind of cut down what else you have going. If he's in there, that means that there's a fight beyond that until Rashad Fenton is back in the fold. Is DeAndre Baker going to rise up? Is Josh Williams in that fight? Is DiCaprio Bootle in that fight? There are a lot of guys that could make their way and be effective in competing for one of those roles. Now, right now, as I see it, I think that there's going to be 6 corners on this roster come the 53 cut. That means that Josh Williams has a chance right now. And so even though it's just rookie minicamp, he's starting to make some plays. If he can continue that, he's got a shot to make this roster. And we have to remember, he's drafted in a similar position that L'Jarius Sneed was. And now we understand what L'Jarius Sneed is and what he has to be for this defense. So you can't underwrite that. I think he's not the only rookie, though, that is going to make some noise as well. I think Brian Cook is an incredibly intelligent guy that wants to play physical, but has the capability to play in coverage with speed. He talked about the fact that he's been doing a lot of running, training, trying to get his speed up for the role that he's going to play. And that is going to be the dime safety. I'm excited about that role for him because I think it allows him to not have to have the pressure of playing down in, down out like Juan Thornhill and Justin Reed will, but it's going to allow him to be his player. I think he's a guy that can make a huge impact. And while everybody else is distracted, he's somebody that can take the ball away. I think he has a big future in Kansas City. I think he's starting to show it already. When pads come on, or at least when the vets get here, we're going to see where he rotates through. I'm very eager to see that. We're going to talk with Matt Derrick later in the week. We'll have a better idea of what's going on with the depth chart as we start to see who's repping where. I hope that you guys are ready for camp too, because love to get your perceptions. You can leave us comments here on the video on the YouTube side. You can leave us reviews over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can hit us at Twitter and let us know what you see out there at training camp, what you think is important, or did you catch something that nobody else saw? Some of those little things add up. So I'm really excited about getting some of your eye reports from training camp as well. The schedule is going to be early morning practices. So you should have the rest of the day for you if you're going to take a day off and get up there to St. Joe. I will be up there at some point as well. I hope that you guys are ready for that. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell over on YouTube. And if you are hearing this somewhere where you're not subscribed on the audio platforms, please do. We are here 5 days a week, all year round for your Kansas City Chiefs. Thanks for taking the time today, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.